I'm here with Kosha Gator, and let's talk about this story from the Daily Mail. Joe Biden's son Hunter used an appearance at a Sandy Hook memorial service to arrange a meeting between his dad and his Chinese business partners. This is according to new texts from a fresh batch of documents released by Congress this week. The meeting was part of an alleged $10 million deal between the Biden family and the Chinese government-linked oil company, CEFC. Sounds completely kosher, doesn't it? Kosher.
It sure does. And I think, this is just one more detail trickling out in the story, and there's three aspects to it. So one is it goes to character. Doing these kinds of things with the Sandy Hook issue as the backdrop is not a good look, and goes to how much do they care. But also just the broader character of getting involved in these things, the fact that the president was allowing his son, who was clearly troubled, had drug issues, we know that's not disputed even by them, sitting on boards and doing business deals. There's something to that I think is not reflecting well. The second is corruption. It's a two-tier justice system, like we're discussing. The media had no interest in investigating these things before the last election. All of this was actually out in the public domain by then. But the third one, which is perhaps the most damning, is did it impact and does it still impact foreign policy in the U.S.? That if they're commercially invested in or they have financial interests with these different countries, is that actually affecting Ukraine policy, China policy, and other policies? And I think all of that, we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. And as it gets more and more into the public domain, hopefully people are paying attention.
And you mentioned the media there. They are absolutely shameful in their conduct here, because for 4 years we had the Russian collusion conspiracies that had no foundation aired and investigated and given legitimacy before they were debunked. And here we've got actual concrete evidence of what looks like some very questionable business dealings between the Biden family and foreign governments or foreign connected individuals. And there's just no curiosity. There's no effort to actually figure out precisely what happened. Was there a quid pro quo? Was there pay for access? Because it looks increasingly like Hunter wasn't the bad egg. It's Joe Biden who is the product that they were selling.
Right. That is ultimately the thing that's most troubling to people. Not so much Hunter. That's one thing. It's maybe easy to expose that, but it's really about ultimately the big guy and the 10% for the big guy that we've heard about.
Exactly. To the UK now, and Rishi Sunak has surprised political pundits by closing the gap between his Tories and Labor in recent polls. He's been on a weekend campaign blitz. Labor is still well in front, though. The gap between them and the Conservatives has shrunk to 12 points from 18 points in March. Sunak's recent policy of compulsory national service has been widely mocked, but perhaps there's people out there who do like it. But he seems to be shying away, Kosha, from the big issues, things like energy policy, net zero, immigration. But he does have one new policy that is, again, gaining support. He wants to get rid of these Mickey Mouse degrees from universities. These are the rip-off degrees like gender studies, social studies, media studies, anything that ends in studies, you've got a question. And they charge students a fortune. They cost the taxpayer a fortune. They're selling false hope. Often the student doesn't have any prospect of getting a decent job afterwards. And he wants to put that money instead into creating an extra 100,000 apprenticeships. That seems like a pretty common sense policy.
It's a great common sense policy. It's one that the right side of the aisle keeps toying with there and in the US and maybe here as well. And they never actually seem to push it forward. We can fill in the blanks for why. It's an obvious one for many reasons. One is the economic one, as you mentioned. The taxpayers are subsidizing these universities for products that don't actually have market value if you judge market value based on the earning potential, which is ultimately what a degree should be about. Two is they just have no skin in the game. So the universities get paid either way, whether the end product is used or not. It wouldn't work that way in any other business. And three, there is the ideological cultural issue where academia is so far to the left. So you would think that the right side of politics would do something about it because they also are adversaries. And we could say it's a little bit too little too late, or we could say better late than never if you want to be gracious and do something about it now.
Well, he needs to act like a Tory because we've had just successive Tory prime ministers who could have been from the Labor Party the way they have behaved in power. Kosha Gator, thank you so much for your time tonight.